Everybody, it is Mike Young, and I want to do a video here about the state of the world. And we're going to comment on a video by the functional melancholic. I don't know much about this guy, but I can tell you that my wife Denise and I have probably watched almost all his videos. I didn't know he only has 33 videos. And we'll have a link down below, down there. Let me see if I can get my hand in there. Yeah, to the video that we're going to be talking about today, and the analysis what we're going to do, and give you my opinions, because I don't actually, I kind of do a lot of times agree with what this guy says, and I don't know his name. I don't know his age. I'm 55 years young. Mike, 55 years young. I'm guessing this guy's around my same age. So Gen X. I think he's mentioned he's Gen X. And like I said, he's only had like 33 videos, been around since June of 2024. In my mind, it was a pretty groundbreaking channel at first. A lot of insight, a lot of funny stuff. And then I realized that, well, maybe it was actually a lot of AI generated stuff, a lot of AI. I mean, you can't even tell anymore. And I still think it may be scripted and he may be reading from a teleprompter. But let's launch this discussion and hear what he has to say.
You ever look around and think, I'm too young to feel this dead inside, or I'm too old to be this unsure of who I am?
Okay, now this has been a theme in a lot of his videos and a lot of the stuff that content that I've put out is that, the youngest generation, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, a little bit older than them, they have a very lost view of the world. And what kind of struck me with this video is that, well, maybe he's talking about everybody going through a midlife crisis, from the earliest to the youngest, which is what he's saying.
Like you were promised self actualization, but you found out it's less finding yourself in Bali and more arguing with a customer service chatbot about a missing blender.
Okay, now what he's saying there about self-actualization, that's a big key thing in my thoughts. I think a lot about these things. And yeah, you're realizing that it's not some dream curated uh, wellness experience. Okay, like a one-off thing like in Bali. It's only going to be a one-off thing if you go to Bali. But you realize that the world is so screwed up. The system is so screwed up that that's what the actualization that takes place is, your recognition that this screwed up system uh, is what's really screwed up. And guess what? I've said this to a lot of people. It's manufactured and designed by humans. It can change. So that's a good thing.
Or you accidentally fast forwarded to the part of your life where you're supposed to be reflecting on a failed marriage and making peace with the fact that you peaked during a company trivia night in 2017. But you're not 50, you're 28 or 9.
Okay, then here we go. He's going into this stuff where he's kind of bringing it around to all ages, which I like. I like that a lot of his themes. Well, they are a lot of this channel's themes are dark. Okay, and I think that that's not necessarily a good thing. I'm much more of an optimist if you've watched me for any length of time. So I like to dive into the deep stuff like this, but I also am more of an optimist. Uh, and because of that, I definitely have a different viewpoint than this guy.
19 or 43 or 67 and more emotionally stable than your grandkids. It doesn't matter. What I'm trying to say is that the midlife crisis isn't age restricted anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone airborne.
Yep.
We're all having one now.
Okay. Now, are we all having one? That's the question. I still see a lot of people have not woken up to what's going on. Some of the things that I would say are really going on that this guy doesn't even touch on are the health crisis that's out there. Everybody over 50 is chronically ill. I mean, I'm like a freak here because I'm not. And the reason why is because we're all taught the wrong things many times by loving parents, but also by the people that actually run the world, which is the large corporations. They want to make as much money as they can off of you. And when you wake up and you realize this stuff, it is very depressing, I would say. There's you get into mental illness and what is mental illness, and when you live in such a screwed up world, and we're finally all realizing that at once, it seems like to me. I hope. Are you? Let me know in the comments if you're not, and this is new information. Then also let me know what your thoughts are. But if we're all in the screwed up world, then I would think that the regular expected response would be of mental illness or depression or whatnot when you realize that.
And I don't think it's because of some dramatic personal failure, though we all have our share of those to some degree. I think it's because the entire system is having one. Now, look, you're not.
Before he goes on, I want to say, yeah, I think that's kind of where the level of consciousness of society is going. Is that, oh yeah, I make mistakes. We all make mistakes, but that's not the reason why so many people are down. Not these individual mistakes that we're all going to make. Again, it points to a flawed system that needs to change.
Unraveling because you drank gas station coffee or haven't done laundry in 3 weeks. You're probably spiraling because you live in a dying empire built on Wi Fi and an increasingly delusional idea of infinite progress.
Okay, now he's getting into something pretty deep here. Infinite progress. That's, of course, the world run by corporations. You got to maximize return for shareholders. You got to grow. You got to keep growing, right? And yeah, it's been said about capitalism that there's always something new. There's always something that you can make better. Always something you can improve. Always some problem to solve. But is there really? I mean, what are we getting into these days? We've got so many advancements, and people still aren't happy. The most people are chronically ill. So many people have mental illness and depression and things like that. So I'm feeling here what he's saying.
I'd say at this point, the world is standing in the break room of a third shift warehouse, microwaving last night's spaghetti in warped Tupperware, trying to ignore the flickering light overhead and the fact that nobody's been paid overtime in months.
Okay, this kind of stuff, these kind of analogies are why I'm thinking this is an AI channel. And again, nothing necessarily bad because everybody needs to leverage AI, but it's kind of ironic that this channel that may be done with AI and a teleprompter, because there will be a divergence, I believe, in YouTube channels. And this is one of the reasons why I'm doing like live. Hey, this is me. This is Mike. I'm talking here. Humans. I'm not. This is not scripted, but his may be scripted. He may be looking at a teleprompter and get all these jokes off of AI.
And we're just supposed to clock in like everything's fine.
Yep.
All right. So back in the day, a midlife crisis used to be simple. You'd buy a new motorcycle or
Corvette.
a red sports car
Yeah, there you go.
and maybe have a tantric connection with a yoga instructor named Moonblossom.
Yeah.
But somewhere around age 45, you realized you weren't special and you tried to fix it with leather seats and a gym membership, which,
No leather
of
seats
course,
for
you
me.
never fulfilled.
Yep. That's it. Gym memberships. They make so much money. How do they make all their money? Because nobody goes. They pay and they don't go.
And now you hit 25 and you realize the planet's on fire, democracy is rotting from the inside out, and your job description might be replaced by an AI trained, an AI trained on Reddit posts and Pinterest quotes, and you're supposed to just breathe your way through it.
Okay, also keep in mind here that there is a dating crisis out there, and I've made videos about this before, how people just aren't dating, especially guys. This guy looks older. My guess with this guy, don't know his name, probably some kind of more of an artistic type, and I think he's alluded to that in some videos, failed artists. And as you know, most artists are kind of like, starving artists. Wouldn't necessarily expect to make it big unless you turn into Van Gogh or Van Halen or something like that. But that's just harder and harder than ever these days. And he's having in his own existential crisis. And I like the way he's fleshing it out here so that we can understand and make it applicable and valuable for the general public.
Maybe drink some mushroom tea, buy a vision board.
More analogies here.
I don't know, manifest stability in a collapsing economy. So I had my first midlife crisis at age 24. I was busy hustling in depraved conditions, believing I was going to hit the big time, and was stubbornly grinding away in poverty, believing it was all going to pay off if I just believed hard enough.
Okay, now in an art type field, if that's where he was, I don't necessarily agree that that would pay off. He can believe that, but in a service field, like let's say home services, I had a business doing that landscaping, and I still do. I mean, yeah, hard work does pay off. And I think that's the difference. He doesn't really mention it in this video, but the younger generation is not seeing that the hard work in a service business will necessarily allow them to buy a house, pay for groceries, and retire. Okay. So you don't have to be trapped into some, dream of being a rock star uh, to still be completely disillusioned and not want to wonder why you're even participating in this giant charade.
But every morning felt like hitting snooze on a life I was never really going to escape from. I wasn't exactly suicidal. I was just ambiently doomed. It was as if I was on a plane I couldn't get off of, and instead of crashing, it just circled endlessly above a flaming landfill, handing out stale, complimentary peanuts and platitudes.
If you've never watched this channel before, this is a very good summary. Like I said, he's only made a little over 30 videos at this point. You don't even have to watch the rest of the videos, although they're all good. But this is a great summary of all the things I'd say that he's talked about up to this point. And that's another reason why I think it may be AI that's actually scripting his stuff.
I think you get the idea. But this isn't just an individual issue. This is global. It's systemic.
Yeah.
And I'd say generational.
Yeah, I agree with all that stuff he just said. I do believe that there are some people that aren't seeing it, and it's probably the oldest folks at this point in time. They're just not seeing it. There's a lot to that, and I think the health issue has a lot to do with that. One of the doctors that I've interviewed a lot on my other channel, plantbaseddiet.org, you can go to plantbasedvideos.info to go to that channel. He talks about how everybody's fat, sick, and stupid once you get over 50, and it's gonna lead to cognitive decline, and may not recognize these things. But it's definitely happening, and I think it's affecting almost everybody at this point.
We are, all of us, experiencing a metaphysical identity crisis while the operating system of modern life short circuits in real time.
That was good. I like the way he described that, because even if you're not into metaphysics or philosophy or whatever, I mean, you're kind of stuck in trying to figure out what the hell is going on right now. And it's a big, giant mess. I never would think things would have transformed so dramatically in the last 2 decades as they have. And, it's just, it's, if you're locked in and you're older, it doesn't affect you as much unless you weren't successful at what you're doing and you were failed. And this may be the case with this guy. Now, this guy's been great with his thoughts, but financially, I don't know. And then, where does he live to? I don't even know. I hear airplanes sometimes, traffic noise. He must be in an urban environment or close to a larger metropolitan area, I believe. Probably an expensive one. It looks like a small house. I don't think this is a set for him. He may live there in this small detached. I don't even know if it's detached or not a house. But let's hear some more.
Our institutions are failing. Our leadership is senile and bought.
Okay. Institutions are failing. They definitely don't work. They are not serving people anymore. It's becoming increasingly clear that they are serving, he's saying bought and paid for, the large corporations. This world is run by the large corporations. I've even had talks with some people that have said, of course, AI is coming and AI may take over your job, as this guy said earlier in this video. And what does that mean for the corporations? Well, AI will take over, but then what's going to happen with humans? Denise and I watched The Matrix recently. Again, I watched it this is only the second time. I watched it when it came out in the theaters in 1999, and I didn't quite understand it. And it has so much more relevance now. But someone told me that the corporations just may not want us anymore. That may be it. And if you look at the way things are going, how it's becoming near impossible, the gap between cost of living and average wages just keeps pulling away. It's making these companies more and more money, but it is squeezing the life and joy out of everybody, it seems like.
Our economy is less free market and more Hunger Games with venture capital. And
Yes.
we're not really citizens anymore.
Wow.
We are more like data sets with varying degrees of depression.
That is some insight, I would say. It kind of brings around some of the stuff that he mentioned earlier in this video uh, and that I mentioned. Data sets with varying degrees of depression. So think about it. If that is true, then mental illness is not a bad thing. You need to say why. Why do I have mental illness? Well, it's probably, as society is beginning to realize now, a reaction to this broken, unfair. I don't even like to use the F word, fair, unfair system that is going to mentally destroy you.
I believe the American dream has been quietly euthanized, and
Yeah, I would say
nobody even sent flowers.
nobody sent flowers, quietly euthanized the American dream. I wrote a book called Live to 150. There's a chapter on the American dream, American nightmare, and why I was so against it. This was a couple of years ago that I wrote the book. It was before I think people started having these revelations as to what's actually going on.
We were promised a ladder. Climate, they said, rung by rung, school, job, mortgage, marriage, kids, treadmill desk. There'd be
Okay. He's saying again, I want to specify because he's not specifying, and I want to make sure you all know what I agree with and what I don't agree with here. And it's that there, if you do take a traditional career, and I'll include home services and things in that because even though they're blue collar, they are needed. And even though a lot of Americans, especially people that look like me, don't want to do any of that work and haven't, even though I do it, it was always possible. You could work hard, you could get this stuff done. But uh, yes, there are a lot of people that failed and tried these, higher risk things. I'd say anything artistic is higher risk than something that you're getting paid for by the job.
a meaning at the top, they said. A 401k, maybe some spiritual enlightenment between meditation and tax season. Instead, we woke up in a malfunctioning theme park where the mascots are tech bros launching penis shaped rockets, and the ride operators are burnout therapists on SSRIs.
Wow, that was a whole lot. And like I said, this video is a great summary of all the things he's discussed in his other videos. Also, the reason why I think it's AI. Uh, Not to say that's not valuable. It's valuable. And I'm subscribed to this guy. I subscribed. The first video I saw, I was blown away by how he integrated this humor with reality and with the waking up as to, like the red pill as opposed to the blue pill. I don't think he's ever mentioned that, but that's how I see this channel. I think that's why I like it so much.
Henry Rollins once said, "America isn't a place you live, it's a video game you survive."
That's Denise and I have talked about that. I kind of gamify everything. I think it's fun. It makes it fun. And if you don't, it's just pure misery. That's the thing. Pure misery. And so many people that used to be able to be NPCs in that video game and get by, and now you can't. NPCs, that is not a sustainable alternative way or just any way of living here in the United States, it seems like. And it's going to spread worldwide if it hasn't already. There are a few places, keep in mind, it's not all gloom and doom. There are some places in the United States that are still possible. It's still possible to do all this, even today in 2025. But most people don't want to live there because they have these super high expectations, and it's just not going to meet them. And that's too bad because you're going to have to make a choice these days.
But I don't think we're malfunctioning. I think we're quite lucid, actually. We are a reasonably sensitive mammal trapped in a fever dream of collapsing institutions and melting glaciers, all while doing the infinite scroll.
That's the other thing. We're all trapped in our echo chambers. And so you don't notice it so much. You think you're choosing, you think you're doing this, that, and the other thing. But we have way more than we need nowadays, but we're still chronically ill. That's the thing. The key here is the health, your health, this guy's health. What is this guy's mental health like? I don't know. He sure is clear. I like the way he explains things, but I wonder, I really question his mental health. I actually question whether he's stoned in a lot of these videos or drunk or high of some kind in some of these videos that he's made, because you look at his eyes, they look all glazed over. They don't look so much like that in this one. And that's another reason actually why I'm choosing to give you my insight in regards to, looking at this particular one, because at least he doesn't look like he's stoned.
And yeah, maybe it's not anxiety. It's just what awareness feels like.
Oh, that was deep. That was deep. It's not anxiety, it's just what awareness feels like. But the thing is, when you feel that, then you've got to deal with the awareness of that reality. And so many people don't want to deal with it. And that perpetuates the anxiety cycle, if you ask me.
When the illusion wears off and all that's left is your slightly over-caffeinated body slumped on an IKEA couch, blinking at the void like it might send a push notification with instructions.
I like these things. It's comedy.
So here we are, folks.
Dark comedy.
We're stuck in this strange collective psychic haze. Like we all wandered into someone else's midlife crisis and forgot to leave.
Strange collective psychic haze. Again, I told you, I think he's probably definitely a 420 friendly over here, and who knows what else. I wish he wasn't, because maybe you could actually do something about it. And that's where him and I disagree, I think, is that you can take this awareness and knowledge and you can do something about it. Or you can say, there's nothing I can do about it. I need to be medicated or somehow, self-medicating with your substances. Either way well, you're not going to acknowledge that there's a way out.
And it doesn't matter if you're 19 or 59, divorced, or still living in your childhood bedroom, you're probably feeling it. That dull ache behind your eyes that says, none of this is really working, is it?
It's not. Well, not for most people. For some people who got in, you just had to make a few wise decisions here and there. And by the way, I'm also a licensed real estate agent. I've always told people, okay, I told people that steered them away in 2005, 2006, although nobody listened to me because prices were too high. And I've also told people that real estate is a great hedge against inflation, and it really didn't matter so much until the last 6 years, maybe 5 or 6 years. But man, it has really made a difference. And if you owned real estate through that, then you're doing well because that has consistently gone up across the board.
And no, it's not a glitch in your personal development. It's not that you miss some 10 habits of highly effective people checklist.
Okay, I'll say that is for many people. That's the thing. That's what's happening now, right? Is that it doesn't matter how many good habits you have, doesn't matter how many things you do right. Even if you do everything right, if you're starting off from nothing now in the beginning, especially if you're young, really young. I'm 55 years young, but I'm talking like 20. It doesn't look like anything's possible. That's the thing. However, it doesn't take away from making horrific mistakes that torpedo yourself and shoot yourself in the foot because it's still possible to make it for some people, yet they still do that. And he's not acknowledging that here, but I just want to make sure that we all acknowledge that.
It's that the world you were supposed to inherit doesn't exist anymore.
That is deep too. The world you're supposed to inherit doesn't exist anymore. So there's always that thought that you're gonna do better. You always want the next generation to do best than the last one, right? I think we've already lost that a long time ago now at this point, maybe a decade or so. I think everyone realizes this is not gonna happen unless you're a tech bro, tech billionaire or whatnot. Those people will, but almost everybody else is gonna be worse off.
Because that script got shredded.
Okay.
Sorry. You know, adulthood used to mean something. You got a job, you bought a house, and you raised kids that hated you in new and exciting ways. But in the 21st century, adulthood seems like a blurry sideshow of broken milestones and shifting expectations. You can't really afford a house or kids anymore. And
All right, there you go. That's another theme he's touching on here is, as I mentioned, and I've already mentioned several times in this video, people can't afford a house. I think they'll never be able to afford a house, never be able to buy it. Could mean there's a real estate crash coming. That's what happened in 2005. That's why I couldn't stop people from buying. Little history lesson. They said, well, if I don't buy now, I'll never be able to buy. The prices keep going up. Although I think people have run out of that now. They're like, oh, no, hell no, not even close. I'm not going to even try.
And that's if you even want to bring kids into this world in the first place.
All right, now
You
that
can't.
yeah, that's an existential crisis that's going on right now. Is that yeah? You combine the fact with women are out earning men in their 20s. They're graduating from college more. Education is just more set up from them, so they're doing better. They want hypergamy. They want to go up. They want. I mean, I'm going to say that this is the way it's been. It's the way it still is. And then there's no one to marry, no one to have children with. Even if they wanted to have kids, they can't do it. And then when you throw all this in, the whole system's rigged against you, and quality of life's getting worse and worse, even though we have more than ever. It doesn't seem like a good environment for kids. So the only people that end up having kids in an environment like this are the very poor and the ultra wealthy.
Can't afford a good therapist, but you can subscribe to a wellness app that tells you everything is fine in Morgan Freeman's voice.
Now he's making it sound like there's different levels of therapists. I think he's been through therapy a lot, and I hope he's doing better. He's doing a great job here. I wish I could say your name. I don't even know what it is. Maybe one day you'll reveal it to us.
This is a world where nothing solid stays long enough to build on. No stable jobs or shared values, no real community, just
Okay. Jobs has changed dramatically over my lifetime. Back when I was born in 1970, people were expected to work in the same company for 30 or 40 years, and they had a defined benefit retirement plan, which meant they knew how much money they were getting for the rest of their lives. And now people don't work for the same company, which is good because they can leave whenever they want, but there's no defined benefit retirement plan except for very, very few jobs, professions, unionized usually. So that's gone now.
Rotating vibes and bills. Okay, so philosopher Mark Fisher, who definitely would have chain smoked through this whole video, wrote that it's easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism.
All right, now see that this is where he's making a good point. I don't like how he ends up with it, but let me comment here is that a lot of this, the reason why people are so miserable is because they have these ideas in their head of the American dream and capitalism and what they can accomplish. And you know what? That was great for a developing country when the United States was a developing country, but now we're not. We got some of the most expensive stuff anywhere here in the United States. Okay. Europe's pretty much going bankrupt. They used to be the ones that we looked up to. They can't even keep it together anymore. So, is that really something that you should be doing? Should be working towards some of your dreams? I don't think so. I think your dream should be that you don't want to be sick. You want to have enough to get by. You want to have some basic necessities and you want to have fun with your life. And you can only have real fun if you're not chronically ill.
And he called it capitalist realism, the inability to imagine any other alternative.
Okay, now that's a problem that a lot of Americans suffer with. It's not to say that it's always going to be like that. And he doesn't mention in the video if that's going to change. I'm telling you that needs to change. We're working with our nonprofit to change that, but that's a big ask. When you're raised with something from before conception through your life now, when someone comes up and gives you a totally different option of a totally different paradigm, in almost all cases, people are just going to reject that. And that's unfortunate because you don't really have any other options right now with the way things are going.
And that's what this collective midlife crisis really is. It's the psychic weight of realizing that the future has been foreclosed.
Interesting, huh? The psychic weight of realizing that the future has been foreclosed. So, in my mind, I'm an optimist. Now, this you say, well, what are the other options? What can we do differently? What other paths can we take? I wish you went that way in this video. Of course, I do. We do with our nonprofit, but she doesn't really give answers.
There's no retirement or American dream anymore. There's no upward mobility anymore, just something like vertical scrolling through curated lives that you'll never afford.
Okay, that social media, I've put a lot of content out about that too. Mine is also my content's all about raising awareness too, because that's the thing. That's what creates a lot of the depression is just scrolling through people's fake social media, which is not their real lives, and you just wish you had that or you think you deserve that, and there's no way you're ever going to get it given the current state of financial stuff here in the US and around the world for the most part. Well, some places around the world are different. And I've also made videos on that and on how it is better, different choices, different countries. It didn't ever used to be like that when I was growing up. Everybody always said US is the greatest country in the world, and no one ever thought about moving out unless it was to some, I don't know, higher, like I said, Europe. People do no, I don't think people really want to go to Europe now. I don't think Europe's going to survive the way they are going.
So the historian Christopher Lasch warned us about this a long time ago. He wrote about how society, in its obsession with productivity and surface level positivity, was creating a culture of narcissism.
Hmm. He warned, I wonder what year that was. If you know, let me know down below, because that's definitely been a theme. If you look around the internet about content that's out there, is everybody's a narcissist and everybody's saying they have a narcissist in their lives. They're blaming all their problems on someone else, which is interesting. I don't really think he gets into that here, but I certainly see that when looking around. That's the theme. That's why you probably heard of this word narcissist, because everyone blames their life's problems on some narcissist that they were associated with, friends with, married to, etc.
People so desperate to be seen and affirmed, they stop knowing who they were. Because no one told them how to be anything, just how to perform.
I think that's normal. That's the way things have been in the US. The search for meaning, um, like is on this discuss channel, is important. Purpose, life purpose is very important. And we weren't taught that. We were just taught how to do things, like he's saying. Unfortunately, we weren't taught how to be good at relationships in school, and we weren't taught about how to have good personal finances in school, which are the only real things that you're going to use your whole life. You were never taught, and I'm sure that was probably on purpose.
All the world's a stage. So the middle class was supposed to be the prize for enduring capitalism. But as you know, that middle class is now a vanishing act.
Oh yeah.
And what we're left with is David Graeber's bullshit jobs, which are careers that serve no real purpose except to keep you exhausted and slightly to heavily ashamed.
Okay, let me comment on this. I do agree with that. I'm seeing that more and more, that people are recognizing this. I'm recognizing it more. I've always been doing my own thing my whole life. I don't know. I didn't ever want to get into that machine of being a wage earner. And I guess now, yeah, it is just like, what are we doing? We're this system that we're in is a nightmare, and the wage earners are working for these large corporations or underneath of them for a subcontractor or something, and they're like, well, I'm working to keep this awfully designed, horrific machine going, and that is not a good feeling.
Jobs where you stare at spreadsheets like they might eventually reveal the face of God. So, Graeber called it a form of spiritual violence.
Oh, oh, okay. It's spiritual violence if you really understand it for what it is. If you understand why you've developed this mental illness, of which there are, every personality subset is there now. But in a fucked up world, that's a reasonable expectation, is to be considered to have a mental illness, in my opinion.
People need to believe their time matters, that they matter.
For sure.
But instead, you clock in and you disassociate for 8 hours and you reward yourself with Uber Eats and passive suicidal ideation.
Okay. He said it there. He almost touched on it a little bit, rewarding yourself with Uber Eats. That's touching on the, I'm going to destroy my health because I made it through another day. And nobody wins there. That's just a total downward spiral.
Okay. Another philosopher, Ivan Illich, once said that institutions.
Before he gets into institutions, let me just say why I said what I just did. And it's because I would say all prepared food that you can acquire, believe it or not, is health harming. Okay? And that's why we have our nonprofit. And that can change. That paradigm can shift, just like the paradigm that he's describing. The rest of the paradigm can shift, but this is part of that paradigm, and he's leaving it out. I wish he would not leave it out. He may not even understand it.
Once they grow too large, stop serving people and begin consuming them.
Now that's interesting. Institutions, once they get too large, stop serving people and begin consuming them. I don't know when we cross that line. I'd say that depends on the company. Like I said, large corporations. So if you work for a company or associated with a company or a subcontractor of a company, like a super large one, over the last, I don't know, 75 years, you probably have been part of that. You've been one of the first people to realize how empty and suddenly turned the other way, where you thought you were helping people and it's become destructive. You have probably realize that, and you didn't have anyone to support you in that, but now it seems like everyone's realizing this at once.
For instance, hospitals that no longer heal
Mm.
and have a vested interest in sickness.
Okay, like I said, he could really get into this, go down the rabbit hole on this one, but he doesn't. And I fully agree with what he says, but he doesn't seem to understand why. And if you don't understand why, like I said, go to our other channel, uh, plantbasedvideos.info is will take you straight there. It's a plantbaseddiet.org. This is key. Health is the real wealth. He doesn't really get into this. He talks around everything else but that. I wish that he would get into this because that's the real motivator for change. That's when you realize you can take control of your own health and you don't have to follow along and worship these medical professionals whose only real job is to make the institution more money. And of course, if you're healed, that's a patient lost, a customer lost. A patient lost is a customer lost.
And schools that no longer educate. And let's.
That's true. Schools, I haven't been an advocate of homeschooling forever, and everyone thought I was a wacko in the early 90s when I started talking about this stuff. But I guess maybe I realized the writing on the wall. Like I said, I've never worked for anybody, never been a wage earner, always done my own thing, my own business. So I have always viewed this from a different perspective. And it was hard back in the day, too. There was no internet, there was no cell phones. The only way I can contact people was by a landline and an answering machine.
Let's not forget governments that exist to maintain themselves, not to serve their constituents.
Of course.
And you can feel it.
Yep. You can. So even if you don't recognize what it is, that's what he's saying. It's a great point. Is that you can feel what's going on and you're going to respond. Your health. And he doesn't use the word health, but I'm using it. It's very important. Let's talk about what's actually going on. Your health is going to respond in a negative way to these negative inputs. What you consume is not just what you eat; it's what you hear, what you see.
You can feel how everything has become a subscription.
Interesting.
Even your own attention, sold
Yep.
off to the highest bidder, and even your relationships framed in algorithms and dating profiles that read like emotional resumes.
Right.
This is Lewis Mumford's Mega Machine in action. Not some sleek sci-fi dystopia, but a bloated, bureaucratic fever dream where your soul gets chewed up by HR policy and techno-feudalism.
All right. If you don't know what techno feudalism is, I made some videos on that. And that is where it's kind of like the old feudalist system, except in this system, it's run by the technocrats, which are Jeff Bezos from Amazon.com, Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook, Elon Musk from Tesla, SpaceX, and a bunch of other things. And I don't know, whoever that was in the picture congratulating the most recent winner of the U.S. president race, because they're the ones that are really in charge. They just pay their lobbyists to tell the government what to do, and you are just a little cog in that system, no different than the feudalism of the past, only this one looks a lot more attractive because your attention is completely mesmerized by what's scrolling across your screen and curated for you by the ones in charge. Even though you think it's your choice, now we got AI in there. You'll never know the difference.
And no one can tell you why. And the best part is that you were taught to believe in the future, and not just chronologically, but morally, that things get better, that progress is inevitable and endless.
Okay, this is a good point. I mentioned this earlier. That's been the assumption, I suppose. You should never assume. Makes an ass out of you and me, but people think it's always going to be something new, something better, something else we can do for the collective, I guess. problems to solve. But you know what? Has life really gotten better? Just think about this for a minute. He doesn't touch on this, but I'm going to touch on it. It used to be that the man supported the household, right? And the women raised the kids. Is life better now? Now that women have it equal? They definitely have it equal now, especially I'm talking about anybody in their below 40, okay? Definitely has it equal. And is it better or worse? I think there's a good argument that could be made there that actually life is worse now because of this system that we're in now, which, whenever you increase the demand, the price goes up. And since everyone can have their own household or should be able to afford that now and should be able to get on the internet and make a fortune, that now everything's more expensive because of that too. One of the reasons why things were a lot less expensive in the past and quality life was not that expensive was because there the demand wasn't as high as it is now. I know there's a lot of things that were bad. Let me know in the comments about what you think about that. But is it better now? Is the question.
And that you're just a few good decisions away from peace of mind. But instead, we have climate catastrophe, and the housing market is a rigged casino, and politics is, of course, a cartoon. On top of all of that, no one seems to know whether AI will save us or replace us, or maybe just edit our dating bios and resumes until we forget how to be human altogether.
Okay. Save us or replace us with AI. That gets into the Matrix, like I was saying. I would highly recommend you go watch that original one if you haven't watched it in a while, or if you've never watched it. And even if you did watch it in the past and you thought you knew what it was, like me, you might watch it and have some incredible revelations because that is a big part of what's going on in terms of the uncertainty now and the hopelessness of why am I even bothering to do this, whatever I'm doing.
Even James Hillman, that cranky Jungian who never fully bought into healing, said it. The soul doesn't want to be cured. It wants to be understood.
Okay. Soul doesn't want to be cured, it wants to be understood. I get that. And I'm glad that he is making people think with these videos. But healing does need to take place. People are sick. Yeah, they're probably sick in their minds, and this channel can help you with that. The Functional Melancholic channel. And again, there's a link down below to this video. I would highly recommend you subscribe and watch some more of his videos. But there's that aspect of health, the things that you can do, that you can take control of, better habits, learning what was taught to you wrong, relearning it, and that can make a dramatic positive difference in your life.
But we're out here too busy doom scrolling to listen.
Of course, yeah. That's the thing. Most people are waste their time on the internet. I hope you're getting some value out of this video and my own thoughts here and the things I don't agree on with this guy and some of the things I do, of course. And this is great that you're doing this instead of allowing your attention to be hijacked by the algorithm that's constantly updated and optimized by AI.
And this isn't just your crisis. I think it's a civilizational hangover. It's an era that woke up from the party and realized the punch bowl was full of lies, that the promises we were fed were actually coupons for a store that burned down in 2008.
I like that. I like that. So basically, things that were promised to you are just no longer available, right? That's what people are feeling. And there's a lot of truth to that. But it also means I still think I'm an optimist. You can still acquire these things. So I'm not totally ruling them out. You just have to be so much better at what you're doing. You have to make fewer mistakes. And it's easier to do that if you're learning from the internet. But most people aren't learning from the internet. What are they doing? They're doom scrolling, just like he says. They're wasting their time. They're consuming mindless content that just gives them the dopamine hits. And this may not give you the dopamine hits, but this is what's going to allow you to enjoy your life, this kind of information.
So, yeah, we feel a little unmoored. I mean, of course we do. How could we not? We're sane, awake. We're not entirely broken. We're just living in a system that is.
Oh, yeah.
And we're having a totally rational reaction to a culture that's lost its way.
I would agree. Totally rational reaction to a culture that lost its way. That's why I think that mental illness is not a bad thing. Mental illness is not something you can't escape from. You just have a bunch of realizations and you realize that you're trapped. Okay? But there are ways. This is how much of an optimist I am to get out of that trap. Now I know that this other channel doesn't go into that. We do. We do. And it's just a matter of people being open-minded, in my opinion.
At some point, we stopped asking, who am I? And started asking, what should I do with my life? Which, in my opinion, was a big mistake.
Okay, well, of course he's going to say that because he's obviously a philosopher, okay? Or an artist or some combination of that. Not necessarily the best way to go about acquiring a high net worth and a cushy retirement. But I do agree that you have to have some meaning behind this. What's the why? Why are you doing what you're doing? Why are we here? We only have one life for sure that we're guaranteed of. And I think that the best way you're going to enjoy this one life is by finding some meaning in it for you. And yeah, definitely asking those questions.
Because what should I do implies there's an answer. A clean, linear solution like a life hack or a TED Talk.
Okay, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that necessarily, although that's part of it. But you need to know why you're here. What's the reason behind life in general? And like I said, question: are we better off today than we were in, like, let's say, 1950 in the U.S.? And if not, why? You need to be able to answer those questions.
But the deeper question, the terrifying, ungoogleable one is,
Ungoogleable.
what the hell is going on here?
Okay, as I've described, I think we know. We know. The problem is that all the incentives are in the hands of the large corporations, and they're going to want to do what it takes to grow their business, infinite growth. Unfortunately, we have legalized here in the United States lobbyists, and that would be considered corruption, I'd say, in just about any other country in the world. That's what's going on here.
Okay. So, David Foster Wallace tried to warn us. He said, the real freedom is the ability to consciously choose what to pay attention to.
Oh, yeah. That's why I keep saying, please do not be a consumer on the internet. Get off the internet. Get off social media. Don't use it if that's what you're going to do. Or you can go the other way, on the other side of this, and you could become a producer, a researcher. Actually, with AI, it's so easy to research things nowadays. That's what you should do.
But unfortunately, we gave that up.
I don't know about that. Mm-mm. See, I guess I'm more of an optimist. I think we have not lost this thing yet.
We handed our attention to apps and algorithms, to advertising firms in Palo Alto.
Yes, we did. And I can agree that just like in 2005, 2006, when I tried to talk people out of buying houses, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. And the people that didn't listen, of course, went bankrupt and got into foreclosure. Same thing may be happening here. Because like I said, you gotta be so much better at what you do nowadays. There's no excuse. Back in the 70s and 80s, information was hard to come by. There was an excuse as to why things weren't going well. But now there's no excuse.
And now we exist in a perpetual fog of monetized distraction. And when the fog lifts, It's just noise.
If you choose to live like that, there's still a choice. You don't have to participate in that.
And choice paralysis. And it's LinkedIn gurus whispering motivational threats like, if you don't build your dream, someone will hire you to build theirs.
Okay, I have to disagree on this because that's key here. What he just said is the reason why we're in this quandary right now. Because people aren't willing to, and haven't been willing for too long to take the initiative. They've acted, the wage earners have acted more like in that feudal system, and they're just a bunch of ants that are doing errands for the higher ups, where you could go off on your own, determine what humanity really needs, what's valuable. And guess what? Spoiler alert, it's not about having a lot of money at all.
You know, we were told we could do anything, so now we're nothing. You know, we were told we could be anything.
All right, be anything, do anything. That has to do with the materialistic paradigm, if you ask me. He's not making a differentiation here, but I'm going to make it. If that is your thing, the materialistic paradigm, materialism, Madonna sang about that in the 80s, Material Girl, that's when they really ramped into high gear. Then, yeah, I guess you're going to be disappointed, but you're going to be disappointed regardless.
And again, now we're nothing. Because now, every identity is a brand and every passion a side hustle.
Okay. He's saying now we're nothing. Maybe we're hitting rock bottom with this materialism thing, with this consumerism thing, with this late stage capitalism thing. Okay. And that's a good thing. Rock bottom is usually what's necessary. And the reason why is because it's all about habits, if you ask me. Like I said, I'm a very much a positive person here. And I know it's the habits that destroy your health, it's the wrong habits. So everybody is the same in the fact that they will change when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of changing. And we may be reaching that point. It's a tipping point, and we may be reaching it right now, and it's a good thing.
And now every human interaction is shadowed by a faint transactional odor.
Transactional odor. I would say maybe lots of them, because we're all in this for the attention, for the dopamine hits, for the ADD value, because that's. Thank you for watching this long form content, by the way, because hopefully you don't have ADD if you've gotten this far in the video. But transactional is kind of ironic here because this guy, I'm sure, it has his YouTube channel monetized. Think about that for a minute.
Smells like corporate capitalism mixed with desperation. And if you're still trying to, find your place in all this, good luck. Because
see, this guy. This is why I think he's probably self-medicating, as they've always said, with his substance abuse, substance addiction. He sounds incredibly hopeless, and I don't agree with that. I don't agree that that's the way this is going to end.
The world, it just keeps shifting under your feet like a drunken stagehand rearranging the set mid-performance.
Nice analogy there, yeah.
So, the philosopher Charles Taylor calls this the malaise of modernity.
The malaise of modernity, if you didn't hear him talk while I was speaking over him, sorry.
It's that slow burn dread that comes from a culture that's lost its shared values but still demands individual performance. We have no common vision of the good, but we all better hustle like hell to look successful.
Okay. all better hustle like hell to look successful, no common vision of the good. I disagree with that. And the reason why is because I feel like, especially like if I'm looking at the female side of this, the heterosexual female side, all the stuff I see with the attention grab desiring women online, they all look about the same. And all other women want to look almost the same too. It's all the same. It's not even variety anymore. Does anybody else notice that?
Social media, right? So, yeah, maybe it's not a midlife crisis. It's more a civilizational identity crisis, wearing a hoodie and drinking cold brew or something. And here's the thing, there's no exit ramp. There's no find yourself yoga retreat in Bali that undoes decades of systemic spiritual decay.
Okay, again, I'm going to disagree with this guy. There is an exit ramp. He's not even talking about personal health. My guess is he's probably so, unfortunately, this is my guess, he's probably so addicted to substances and abusing substances regularly that he can't see that. That's one of the reasons why substance addiction, substance abuse of any kind, I'll include alcohol in there. Nothing to do with legal or illegal. Okay. That's why you shouldn't be doing that. It clouds your vision the way he's saying. And yeah, there's no one-time retreat in Bali. Okay. I get that. But that's not what we are saying the answer is. Actually, not even the potential answer. I do know it's the answer. You need to take control of your health. You need to do that through your own habits. You need to do it every single day of your life, and you will be amazed at the transformation.
I think the best we've got is awareness. And maybe.
Okay, awareness, yes, that's the first step. It's not the best we've got, though. I completely disagree with that statement.
A small, quiet refusal to play the game by the old rules.
Okay, yeah, of course, a small, quiet refusal to play the game by the old rules. Yes, you're going to need to take that stance. And this is coming from somebody who has always worked for himself his entire life. Okay. Yeah, it can be done. Uh, and in the most mundane businesses you'll be able to be financially successful with if you stick with it. But it's outside the paradigm of this American dream type thing that you were sold by being a wage earner.
The tricky thing about collapse is that it doesn't always look like smoke and rubble or some, grandiose apocalyptic scene. Sometimes it looks like everybody's smiling through gritted teeth at a wellness workshop while
Like that.
quietly wondering if they'd be happier living in their car.
Okay, you hear that? Wonder if you'd be happier living in your car than having to go through some effort at a wellness workshop. Again, it's not like that's the only option for your health. And he doesn't even mention the word health. We, as an organization, just so you all know, we don't agree with what we would call interventional methods of health. And a wellness workshop is just an interventional method. It's not going to produce the lifelong habit changes that are required to set you into a different health paradigm where you're thriving rather than just barely surviving.
I don't think we need a mushroom cloud to feel like the world ended.
No, definitely not.
All it takes is 9 hours of Zoom meetings at your soul-destroying job or a grocery bill that costs more than rent used to. Or the creeping suspicion that you were born for something more than endless physical labor or...
Hold on. Endless physical labor? Look, I've been doing physical labor most of my life. And actually, that's the good job. By the way, I'm standing up. Okay. He's sitting down. Sitting is definitely the new smoking. Physical labor, as long as there's an actual thing, a tangible thing, you can see you've created something and done something with your hands or tools or whatnot. It's very satisfying. This guy maybe has never done that. I don't know. Or maybe he's been in an unsatisfying physical labor job because he's been a wage earner. I don't know. But I would say that those what he just said is not accurate, in my opinion.
Inbox maintenance. So, good old Viktor Frankl, who I've mentioned many times before, who survived actual death camps in World War II, said that suffering without meaning is unbearable.
Like I said, he may have worked a physical labor job where it had no meaning whatsoever. It was just a waste of his time doing a busy work. And I get that. But even a busy work, if it's your own thing and you've got your own goal in mind in terms of what you're trying to do with your life, and guess what? You're going to be tired at the end of the day, which means you're going to sleep well. And my guess is this guy has trouble sleeping. Okay. But if you're exhausted every day, you will sleep well. And I will also tell you that we've been starting some growing projects, food growing project with the nonprofit, and I have been out there with a pickaxe on a mountaintop, uh, knocking away rocks and planting stuff, and it's very satisfying. Growing food. This guy has probably never experienced that. I wish that he would.
That humans can survive nearly anything if they believe there's a why behind it.
Yes.
But what's the why behind juggling 3 jobs to afford a studio apartment with exposed pipes and black mold that your landlord refuses to take care of?
Notice he's talking about urban life. That's going to be in an urban setting or a small town, downtown setting, something like that, or adaptive reuse warehouse or factory building. It's not out in the country. Okay. You don't have to choose city life. This guy makes it sound like you have one choice, city life. And there are some great things about the city. I'm not knocking the city uh, unless you don't like living there. And then if you don't like it, and if your finances don't like it, and if it's more difficult, because it is nowadays, cities are becoming like millionaire only places, then go out in the country. It's way, way more affordable depending upon where you go. There are still places in the US that you can go. You don't have to leave the country, although leaving the country is also a great alternative.
We were built to seek meaning, but we were trained to seek productivity.
Okay, well, I'd say that he's talking about himself. Not everyone was like that. Any deep thinker can think about meaning and why am I doing this their whole lives if they want, and they can train their own selves in that, train your own mind. You don't have to be a slave to the limited information that you are required to learn to do your rote job.
And that switch, subtle and corrosive, is killing us.
Okay, well, that could have been said 40, 50 years ago. So that doesn't really apply necessarily to some midlife crisis that everyone's experiencing in today's world right now, because that's not any different than it has been my entire life. Like I said, I'm 55.
Erich Fromm called it the shift from being to having. We don't live as ourselves anymore. We just collect identities. We own accomplishments and acquire relationships. We
Interesting.
possess status. It's reached the point where even love is something we try to earn rather than something we simply give.
Well, I'd say with certain love, like I said, the hypergamy thing. if you if you understand what hypergamy is where women are trying to date up always, so men have to earn that. So men are pretty much out of the dating market in their 20s, almost everybody, with a few exceptions, and then they start to come on strong in their 30s. By 40, they they can do it, and they have to earn it, like he's saying. But women are not necessarily like that. In fact, not like that at all in many relationships. So that's a man thing, I'd say, and he doesn't mention that here, but I'm gonna mention that to you guys.
So, Simone Weil, one of those gloriously strange mystics who felt more deeply than was probably healthy, wrote that attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity.
Mm-hmm. Good.
But our attention has been strip mined and resold back to us in 15-second clips with royalty free ukulele music.
Oh, yeah.
So we sit and scroll and search,
Doom scrolling.
waiting for something to fill the silence between the constant dopamine hits.
There you go. Yep.
And when the noise dies down,
I hope you
the
realize this.
existential hangover kicks in.
Yeah, so you may not even realize what that existential hangover is, but there's got to be some reason you're here, some reason you're alive, and none of that stuff that he's saying that's part of daily life in your screen, your zombie, your little handheld screen that turns you into zombie. Uh, it doesn't. That's not there to provide you that unless you're seeking it. Hopefully, you're seeking out this guy's channel and our channel. Share this with somebody that maybe might have some amazing realization by watching this.
I mean, is it any wonder that we're all freaking out?
No.
It's not just a midlife crisis, it's a mid era crisis. A low grade cultural nervous breakdown dressed up as content. And somewhere deep down, we all know this. We can feel it. But
Yeah.
I think we feel this more deep down in our bones than in our heads.
Comment on that. Let me know how you feel. If you're recognizing this, if this is the first time, maybe somebody shared this video with you because they wanted you to wake up. I'm curious. Just let me know down there in the comments how you would classify yourself in regards to that.
That it's like an aching sense that this isn't sustainable.
Definitely not. Okay. That's something we talk about a lot in the nonprofit sustainability of your health, of what you're doing, of any of your habits, of any of the stuff. And yeah, it's not sustainable. Most of what we do, most of the systems out in the world right now are degenerative, meaning they're not sustainable. They are sustainable for the corporate profits and for corporations ruling over you and making you have less and less options over time. That's the only thing that's sustainable right now in this system.
Isn't it? But nobody wants to say it out loud, right? Because if we admit that the emperor is naked, someone might expect us to sew him a damn pair of pants. So, what the hell do we do when you wake up in a world that feels like it's emotionally catfishing you?
Huh.
Where
Well, the emotional catfishing for sure is all about those dopamine hits that you want more than anything else. You have to decide as an individual that you don't want that or that you're willing to go with less. And then your life will improve. I know he doesn't say that here, but it's really that simple. It's almost like the other side of this that's the philosophical side. The health side, like the human health side, is that you have to be willing to deny your taste buds at least somewhat because your body wants real natural food and it can't compete with the engineered junk that's out there that you really, really, really want.
meaning's been outsourced, and the future is basically paywalled. What do you do when your therapist is booked out 6 weeks because everyone else is also whisper screaming into the void?
Oh, yeah. Is that something, I'm curious, that you all are seeing out there? Excuse me. Is talk therapy on the upswing? Are more and more people going to talk therapy? What do you see out there?
Well, first, I think we stop trying to fix the feeling like it's a glitch. This isn't a bug. It's a feature of being a conscious creature in an unraveling civilization.
Okay. He says feature of being a conscious creature in an unraveling situation. A lot of people would answer that and say, this is by design. Okay. As if the oligarchs and whoever else has designed this. And he's kind of touched on those points, but he's not saying it here. He could say it here. What do you all think? Let me know down there in the comments. Little informal survey. Is this by design, or is this just part of the generic human experience?
I don't think we're malfunctioning. We're noticing. And I think the very fact that it hurts means we're still human.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it means we haven't quite gone numb yet. Okay. Thomas Merton said, "We are so obsessed with doing that we have no time to be. We've fallen into the trap of believing that we are what we do."
What do you do? What do you do? That's the question, right? What do you do? What do you do? You should think long and hard now about how you'll answer that when someone asks you that, so that you don't fall into this trap that this guy's talking about.
But you are not your resume or your follower count. You are not your credit score. You are a sentient sack of meat floating on a spinning rock who somehow has the ability to feel grief and beauty and awe and dread all in the same 90-second window.
Okay, so he's just saying you are not any one of the accolades that you might be able to earn in this physical world. He's going back to the same thing he said earlier about why are you here? What, he's not even saying it, but what's the meaning of life, that kind of thing. And you should ponder that. You definitely should, especially when you're in this system that's where it seems like the whole casino, the whole deck, everything's stacked against you.
I don't see this as dysfunction. I see it as depth. But how do we live with that?
Okay, no dysfunction, but depth. That kind of goes along with what I said about why mental illness is not a bad thing. It's more like a red flag of what the hell is going on in society right now. What are we allowing to happen? What's the purpose of this? Why are we here?
Kind of awareness and not drown in it. Well, I think we start by turning down the volume on everything that's trying to sell us anesthesia. Let's turn down the news cycle that feeds on our cortisol.
Yeah, that's it. The anesthesia is those cheap dopamine hits.
About we turn down the influencers pretending anxiety can be cured with a mushroom latte and 5 a.m. lunches.
Okay, you see, he's touching on it. He's almost touching on the health issue here, and he could talk about it. Maybe he just doesn't know. But I would say, yeah, anxiety won't be cured by those things that he just said. But if you develop better habits, the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine, the 6 pillars of healthy vegan food, my book, Live to 150, well, we talk about all of them. You can get out of that. It's not a quick, easy fix. There's no intervention that's going to suddenly pull you out and you're done. You have to relearn everything.
Or, I don't know, how about we silence the productivity cult that acts like burnout is a spiritual achievement? Bell Hooks said that choosing love in a loveless culture is a radical act. Choosing stillness is too.
Oh, that's another one. Wow. Wow. I'm glad you brought this up because, I've touched on this in my content, is that you need to get into nature. You need to get into a place where there's no human made noises. But most people are afraid of that. They're afraid to be alone with their own thoughts. Your dopamine receptors and your thoughts, the diet you feed your eyes and ears has been so hijacked by the machine out there that you're afraid. You've got to move beyond that. I don't see how you could get to a good place in life without moving beyond that and without enjoying some silence on a regular basis.
choosing not to scroll past your own discomfort, but to sit with it and learn its name. And maybe, most importantly, choosing each other. Because the myth of the individualist savior, it's just that, a myth. Nobody survives collapse and solitude.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, whether we like it or not, we're going to need each other.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's why we're doing the work that we do with our nonprofit, because we provide like free public education. A lot of the things I've told you here in my analysis of this video and the things I disagree with are part of the free public education that we provide. And yeah, you need everyone out there to start rising up in their level of consciousness, because the problem is that 95% of all choices that are out there in this world are bad. We're in a system where almost everything's degenerative. All this can be flipped, but it requires a lot of work, and it requires us working together till we shift the paradigm, till we reach that tipping point, and then all of a sudden there's nothing but positive peer pressure, which, like I said, I'm an optimist. I can see that. I don't think this guy can see that. I wish that he would.
Even if we're all weird and traumatized and awkward as hell at hugging and divided. Ivan Illich once wrote about the idea of conviviality, the art of living together without domination, not in utopia, just in dignity.
There you go. We definitely see the value in community. And yeah, it has to be a functional community that is regenerative. That's what it has to be. He didn't use those words here. I wish that he did, because that's why he's maybe lacking positivity. He sees that, yeah, we need to help each other out. That's how we're going to get out of this. But he doesn't see beyond that, and the steps and the work that needs to be done.
It's not sexy, but it is real. And
yeah, definitely not sexy. That's what, if it was, man, we would have everybody doing the work right now.
I don't know, maybe that's the answer. Not to optimize your way out of collapse or to build a better life on the smoldering ruins of a toxic system.
Okay, we're going to stop there. Not to optimize your way out of a collapse or build a smoldering ruins on top of this toxic system. I mean, I agree that it's not about hustle culture. Okay. If that's what he's getting at, because the hustle culture thing, if it's just hustling for the sake of hustling, then yeah, that's going to create burnout. That's going to create all the nasty, terrible stuff that he described, that so many people are waking up to, that their whole lives are enveloped in. But I do think that we can do this together. I think we can optimize out of this. And it's through changing habits, through deciding what we want to do. Why are we here? We've got so much advancement. Like I said, are we better off than we were in 1950 here in the United States? And if not, why? Okay, what are we trying to do? What's the end goal? Now, us, for the work that we do, we just don't want people to be sick. Nobody wants to be sick. And this guy is talking about, sick, at the very least, a sickness in your thoughts, in your mind, in your head. And but in the reality, anybody over 50 is chronically ill with some kind of non-communicable disease, and mental illnesses are just one type of non-communicable disease. And it's actually not even the ones that are most pervasive and most certainly causing your own death. Like 80% of all illnesses are non-communicable diseases. And mental illnesses are only a part of that. Although they're all kind of related, if you ask me. It's all kind of the same disease. And if you want to know more, like I said, join us there at plantbasedvideos.info. Just go subscribe to that channel. Subscribe to this guy's channel too, The Functional Melancholic, the name of this video, why we're all experiencing a midlife crisis. I'm going to link it below so you can go and watch that again if you want. But this has been my analysis. I think I touched on all the points I wanted to, and I appreciate you watching to the end. And if you did, just, of course, give us a like and subscribe if you don't already. And definitely, please share this with somebody that can benefit.